Nian is at a pizza shop, demonstrating her pizza-making skills to Dajuan. Dajuan is amazed by her proficiency. When he struggles to open a simple jar, Nian steps in and helps him. Later, Dajuan accidentally breaks a dish, and Nian quickly comes to his aid, asking if he is hurt and assuring him that she will keep it a secret from her father. Grateful, Dajuan thanks Kim Taek for introducing him to the job. Kim Taek, a regular customer, had influenced the shop owner to hire Dajuan. As Dajuan looks at Nian, he wonders if this could be a lifetime job. As long as there are no rude customers, it seems perfect to him. Just as he is lost in thought, a customer rudely confronts Nian, questioning why she cares if he smokes. Nian apologizes politely, explaining that other customers are present. The customer reacts aggressively, throwing a drink at her. Dajuan, furious, starts to run towards the customer, but his boss stops him, saying Nian is fine. Despite the incident, Nian smiles and continues to apologize to the customer. When the customer leaves, both Nian and her father bow and apologize, even offering to refill his drink. The customer rudely refuses and exits. Dajuan is shocked by the lack of confrontation from the boss. He asks why nothing was said when Nian was mistreated. Nian, drying her hair with a towel, assures Dajuan that she is fine. The boss sits at a table and asks Dajuan if he wants to ruin their business by reacting. Nian suggests they all calm down and asks Dajuan if he is from a different neighborhood. When Dajuan confirms, she explains that a dangerous organization operates in their area, making it hard for ordinary people to distinguish such individuals. They must be careful with such customers. The boss laments not wanting his daughter to suffer and admits he has seen many stores close after being targeted by these people. He blames himself for their situation, feeling guilty for being broke and uneducated. Nian thanks Dajuan for his concern, explaining that running the store allows her to attend school and her dad to work. Dajuan marvels at how mature Nian is despite being the same age. She then comforts her father, urging him not to cry and to prepare for the night shift. Observing this, Dajuan realizes that life there is much harder than he thought. As Dajuan adjusts to his job, he begins his first lesson. He and Han-gil stand on a terrace, with Han-gil reading a comic book. Han-gil tells Dajuan to start by eliminating his fear of hitting someone. Dajuan, looking serious, suggests that they might not need to worry about that. Han-gil hits him with the comic book, telling him not to be overconfident just because he won once. He asks if Dajuan plans to jump off with the gangsters every time he fights, pointing out that Dajuan still can't beat them properly. Dajuan asks what he should do, and Han-gil reassures him that he will reshape him. Han-gil asks if anyone from Dajuan's family has come looking for him. Dajuan responds that even if they find him, he has no reason to leave. Over the next few days, Han-gil drives Dajuan hard, making him do push-ups, squats, sit-ups, and odd footwork exercises while Han-gil reads comic books. Dajuan doubts if this is proper training, noting that he hasn't thrown a single punch. After his exercises, Dajuan approaches Han-gil, saying he is fine with the footwork but asking if Han-gil has a guaranteed way to always win. Han-gil replies that he has already shown him to use his surroundings, stop the opponent's movements, block their vision, and look for an appropriate weapon. Finally, Han-gil smiles, acknowledging that developing these senses is difficult, but encourages Dajuan to work hard. Suddenly, Dajuan shows Han-gil a boxing match on his phone, expressing a desire to fight like that. Han-gil stands up and tries to strike Dajuan with the comic book again, but Dajuan dodges. Surprised, Han-gil strikes 3 more times, and Dajuan dodges each one. Han-gil smiles and says he will now teach Dajuan how to use his fists properly. Preparing for a punch, Han-gil notices Dajuan's fear. A few days later, in an abandoned warehouse, another gangster, Chun Ki-woong, is beating up a man wearing a helmet with a baseball bat. 3 other men watch and ask Ki-woong what they should do about Cho Han-gil, who has been going around attacking their guys. Ki-woong rests the bat on his shoulder and asks what they want him to do. He then places the bat on the shoulder of the man who spoke earlier, implying that they should let him handle the situation without causing more trouble. Suddenly, the helmet of the beaten man is removed, revealing him as the gangster responsible for the blast incident. Ki-woong tells him that it's all his fault. The gangster begs for mercy, but Ki-woong shoves the bat into his mouth and tells him to stop wasting his energy on pointless pleas. Ki-woong remarks that he has never cut anyone slack, but suggests he should step forward to avoid getting caught by their superiors. One of the three men comments that it would be easier if he did. Ki-woong gives them 30 minutes to find Cho Hang-il's group, saying he won't give them much time. One of them protests that it's impossible, but Ki-woong, with a creepy smile, reminds them that he's still there. Terrified, all three men run off to locate Hang-il's group. Two of them reach Hang-il's home and knock on the door, but there's no response. One suggests they might as well gang up on Chun Ki-woong, but the other retorts that Ki-woong is worse than Cho Han-gil. They call their third companion, who is at the pizza shop. In the next scene, Da-jun is walking near the pizza shop where he works part-time. He muses that it has been a while since he started working and wonders if they could change to a weekly salary. As he approaches, he notices the shop's glass window is broken and sees a fat guy inside talking with two other men. The fat guy grabs the owner's collar and, on a phone call, accuses him of being close to Kim Taek yet not knowing his whereabouts. The owner is being beaten by the fat guy, who then looks outside, spots Da-jun, and angrily yells at him for staring. Da-jun sees Neon sitting on the ground as if someone has pushed her and clenches his teeth, declaring he will help her. Neon, murmuring for him to run away, goes unheard by Da-jun. Da-jun reflects on how different Neon is from him. She is kind, warm-hearted, and capable, unlike him, who acts recklessly without thinking. Neon endures hardship quietly, working hard to protect the store for her father's sake. Da-jun resolves to be mature like Neon, understanding that everyone has their way of living. Suddenly, he throws a drink bottle at the fat guy, but the man dodges it. Da-jun steps through the broken pizza shop door. The fat guy demands to know who he is, and Da-jun, looking at him angrily, responds that he is a regular there. In a flashback, we see that the fat guy's name is Kim Tae-yong. Despite his large body being all muscle and no fat, he has never worked out a day in his life. Kim Tae-yong used his natural gifts solely for violence. Unlike Da-jun, he got expelled for a different reason. No one could stand up to Kim Tae-yong, at least inside the school. Outside of school, only Chun Ki-woong was his natural enemy. Tae-yong always thought of himself as invincible, but that notion was being challenged now. For the first time in his 17 years, he saw a strange sight, a wimpy loser daring to fight him. To him, Da-jun was like a fearless puppy barking at a lion. Tae-yong told Da-jun to knock it off, warning him that he would die if he fought him. Da-jun responded, "Don't spit on the store's floor." Tae-yong, thinking Da-jun couldn't understand him, suddenly charged at him, saying he would make him slobber all over the floor. Seeing Tae-yong coming, Da-jun remembered the first rule of street fighting: use your surroundings. He pulled a table towards Tae-yong, which collided with him. Da-jun thought, block their movement, and then recalled Hang-il's teachings. In another flashback during Da-jun's training, Han-gil trained Da-jun to punch. Han-gil threw countless punches, but Da-jun didn't move, paralyzed by fear. Han-gil taunted him, asking if he had given up and was ready to run away. Da-jun remained immobile. Han-gil scolded him, telling him not to space out while being punched. Han-gil then demonstrated how to punch properly, performing a dummy punch on Da-jun. He explained that the left fist is used to keep the opponent in check, while the real punch is hidden behind the jab, with power flowing from the foot to the fist. Han-gil raised his hand, admitting it was hard to use right away but promising to watch over Da-jun's form, encouraging him to keep practicing. Da-jun fell to the ground, seemingly hit by the dummy punch. Back in the store, Da-jun thought about the punch that had been drilled into him over the past few days. Tae-yong, momentarily confused by being hit with a table, saw Da-jun channel his power from his foot to his fist and land a perfect punch straight to Taeyang's head. Neon and her father were surprised. Neon thought that Da-jun, always a friend she wanted to help, was different from usual. Da-jun felt satisfied, thinking he had finally perfected the punch. Meanwhile, Daeyob was talking to Han-gil on the phone. Daeyob criticized Han-gil for teaching Da-jun to fight and suggested that Han-gil find a part-time job if he had so much free time. Hangil replied that he didn't want to work and asked why Dajuan wanted to learn how to fight, noting that Dajuan's reasons sounded like that of a loser. Dayob acknowledged this but pointed out that Dajuan was learning quickly and could fight effectively. However, he questioned who Dajuan could beat just by learning the basics, emphasizing that physical strength is crucial when novices fight. Back at the store, Dajuan's punch does not affect Taeyong. Taeyong, surprised, asks if Dajuan works out. He then throws a punch at Dajuan, but Dajuan dodges it. Dajuan realizes that while Taeyong's movements suggest he doesn't know how to fight, it's still terrifying to evade his punches. He knows it's over if Taeyong catches him. Determined, Dajuan decides he'll keep dodging and punching until Taeyong drops. He hits Taeyong multiple times, but it's like hitting a brick wall. Nothing seems to hurt him. Taeyong smiles and corners Dajuan, grabbing his collar and delivering heavy punches. He taunts Dajuan, saying he'll die if he continues to fight. Taeyong then grabs Dajuan's neck with both hands, choking him. Dajuan struggles to breathe. Suddenly, Nian rushes in and tries to pull Taeyong off, but he pushes her, causing her to fall to the ground. Blood trickles from Dajuan's mouth as he wonders if he'll ever break free from being a loser. On the other side of town, Dayob is on the phone with Hangil. He tells Hangil that he thought Dajuan would be useful because he seemed a bit unhinged. How was he supposed to know Dajuan would get stabbed? He warns Hangil not to let Dajuan get too full of himself, pointing out that some people can't fight even after being taught. Hangil replies that not everyone is a genius like Dayob, but he's noticed that Dajuan has a sense for it. Back in the pizza shop, Taeyong still has his grip on Dajuan's neck. Suddenly, Dajuan spits in Taeyong's face, remembering the second rule of street fighting: block your opponent's vision. With Taeyong's eyes temporarily blinded, Dajuan takes advantage and continues punching him, but it still seems ineffective. Taeyong smiles through his temporary blindness. Dajuan remembers the third rule: look for something useful around him. He grabs a drink bottle and smashes it over Taeyong's head repeatedly. Taeyong screams for him to stop. Despite his bleeding hands, Dajuan keeps hitting Taeyong, thinking that this is nothing compared to being stabbed. He continues until the bottle breaks, and then Nian approaches, telling him he can stop now. Taeyong has fainted. Nian's dad is confused, marveling that a part-timer beat the giant Taeyong. Dajuan looks at Taeyong and threatens to kill him if he sees him near the store again, vowing to rip him apart. He collapses to the ground, relieved, thinking he has finally won with his own two hands. Suddenly, Taeyong's two mates enter the shop, wondering what's going on. One of them remarks that it looks like Taeyong got knocked out. The other doubts it was Dajuan and Nian. They look at the owner and suggest maybe he's stronger than he looks. But Dajuan stands up and declares that he's the one who took Taeyong down. Nian tries to stop Dajuan, worried he can barely stand, but Dajuan signals her to stop. He vows to keep fighting no matter what and challenges the two men. They're confused until one of them is suddenly punched by Kim Taek. Nian supports her father as he stands. Dajuan, surprised, asks how Taek got there. Taek ties his hair back with a rubber band, telling Dajuan he's worked hard and that he'll handle the rest. Rolling up his sleeves, he challenges the two men, asking who wants to die first. The two men charge at Taek, but they're quickly taken down by his heavy punches and kicks. Dajuan is amazed at Taek's strength. After knocking them out, Taek grabs one of the men by the collar and demands to know who sent them. The man confesses that Chun Ki-woong ordered them to do everything and insists he had nothing to do with the gas incident. Taek kicks the man unconscious and mutters that it was those guys from Haegwang. Dajuan, confused, asks who they are and why they would do something like this. He remembers the gas incident and wonders if it's related to the group the gangster mentioned. Taek explains that the area's security has been terrible for a long time, with the police having given up on dealing with endless crimes. This allowed mafia groups to grow their illegal businesses. Dajuan asks if these guys are mafia. Taek clarifies that the mafia groups were wiped out by the local delinquent group, Haegwang, who now controls the area like the mafia they replaced. Chun Ki-woong is known to be the most vicious within Haegwang, and they're likely targeting them for getting in their way. Taek looks at the owner and asks why he didn't say anything all this time. The owner explains that it's impossible to deal with Haegwang, whose cruelty knows no bounds. He recalls seeing many shops ruined by them. The owner says he couldn't let Taek and Dajuan get more involved with those crazy guys. Taek becomes angry. Dajuan, now by Neon's side, puts a hand on her shoulder. Neon thanks Dajuan for helping them, tears in her eyes as she admits she was scared. Meanwhile, Daeyob is returning from his job, walking down the street while talking to Taek on the phone. Taek informs him that Chun Ki-woong attacked the pizza shop. Daeyob becomes angry, realizing that Hae Gwang is trying to mess with them. Taek says they need to take countermeasures against Hae Gwang, reminding Daeyob of Chun Ki-woong's danger. He tells Daeyob to take care of himself first. As Daeyob walks, he sees some guys harassing shops nearby, with an old woman and a child sitting near one store. One of the guys tries to attack the old woman with a steel rod, but Daeyob intercepts, grabbing the rod and preventing the attack. He punches the guy in the face. One of the other harassers recognizes Daeyob and warns the others that they're dealing with him. They claim to be from Hae Gwang. Daeyob charges at them, declaring his name. After some time, Daeyob has beaten and knocked out all the guys. He turns to check on the old woman, asking if she's okay. She points behind him and suddenly, Daeyob is struck on the head with a bat by Ki-woong. At Hangel's house, Taek desperately wants to help the pizza place because he considers their pizza very delicious. The others jokingly agree with him and decide to help defend the pizza place. Everyone gets a message about Daeyob being captured and brutally beaten up, along with the location of the abandoned factory where he is being held. They immediately head there to rescue their precious friend. Before the runaway family arrives at the factory, Taek gives Dojin the option to leave, thinking he would be a liability and hold them back. Despite this, Dojin shows up because he wants to help Daeyob. At the factory, they find 15 Hae Gwang members, but there are only 4 of them. In reality, it's more like 3, since Dojin is seen as useless. Ki-woong welcomes them by smacking and stepping on Daeyob right in front of them. Gaeong tells Ki-woong to stop acting tough and mentions how ugly he looks. Ki-woong orders his guys to shut them up. The fight begins, and while Dojin stands frozen, Taek and Gaeong prove they are on equal footing with Ki-woong's men, easily fending them off. Dojin tries to protect Gaeong, thinking she is fragile, but she shoves him aside and uses her flexibility to compensate for her lack of strength. Realizing all 3 of them are strong, Dojin calculates that they have already beaten half of Ki-woong's men. Seeing enough, Ki-woong approaches Taek with his metal bat. Meanwhile, Dojin struggles to even throw a punch at one of Ki-woong's normal guys. He tries to use his surroundings to gain an upper hand but ends up being taken hostage due to his inexperience. Proving himself a liability, the fight pauses as Ki-woong demands the runaway family kneel if they want to see Dojin alive. Taek refuses to surrender, and Dojin tells him to leave him if he becomes baggage. However, Dojin's recklessness shows as he stops a shard of glass with his bare hands. Impressed, Taek realizes Dojin is the wildest and craziest among them. Dojin defeats his captor and tries to stop the blood flow from his wounds. The others are shocked to see that Taek has single-handedly defeated Ki-woong. With Ki-woong on his knees, Taek begins a victory speech, but Ki-woong interrupts, saying the fight isn't over. Ki-woong gets up to attack again. While he uses his metal bat, Taek is barehanded, making it an unfair battle. Taek looks for an opportunity to launch a decisive move to end the fight quickly, but Ki-woong is one step ahead and uses his men to catch Taek from behind. After he starts beating him up, Dojin comes from behind and uses a wooden plank to hit Ki-woong on the head. However, this barely does any damage and only makes Ki-woong even more furious. Approaching Dojin with a menacing aura, Ki-woong asks if he wants to die. Paralyzed by fear, Dojin realizes he has never fought anyone so violently and cannot bring himself to move. Ki-woong wastes no time, using his bat on Dojin and making him gag. With one shot to the belly, Dojin falls to the ground, admitting defeat. Despite his minimal contribution, Dojin's actions buy the runaway family enough time to defeat Ki-woong's men. The trio then charges at Ki-woong from 3 different sides, their excellent teamwork briefly neutralizing his movements. However, Ki-woong's strength allows him to break free, remaining unharmed no matter what the trio throws at him. He mocks them for their weakness and offers them one last chance to give up and work under him. Gaeong retorts, asking if he has hit his head, and declares she would rather die than serve someone so ugly. In response, Ki-woong summons dozens more men and finally defeats Taek and his friends. He tells Taek that he is sending someone to burn his favorite pizza place to the ground. Before he can make the call, Dojin crawls up and bites his leg, unwilling to see Neon and her father suffer. He bites as hard as he can until Ki-woong shoves him away with his bat. Ki-woong proceeds to call the person to burn the pizza place, but the call is answered by Han-gil. Han-gil has already beaten up the person for arson and vows to show no mercy for hurting his friends. Ki-woong, who originally thought Han-gil had run away like a scaredy cat, is greatly amused to see him standing there. Han-gil sees Taek and the others defeated and knocked down, realizing they must have been beaten badly to be in such a state. He remarks that it's been a while since he has seen Taek in such a sorry condition. Han-gil tells Ki-woong that he won't leave in one piece after what he did to his family. A brainless thug attacks Han-gil, thinking he is all bark and no bite, but Han-gil demonstrates that he is in a completely different league. He provokes the others to attack him, but seeing his skills, Ki-woong's men are too scared. To motivate them, Ki-woong puts a $1,000 bounty on Han-gil's head. Using his Ultra Instinct, Human Edition, Han-gil defeats his opponents one by one, picking up anything he can find to use as a weapon. Dojin, barely able to keep his eyes open, is amazed at Han-gil's abilities. Realizing he is about to lose, Ki-woong threatens to break Taek's arm. But Han-gil remains unfazed and continues beating up Ki-woong's men one after another. Taek tells Ki-woong that Han-gil isn't the type to be swayed by threats. If he were, he wouldn't have made it this far. Despite this, Ki-woong breaks Taek's arm to make Han-gil regret his decision. However, Han-gil remains resolute, moving steadily towards Ki-woong. Ki-woong recalls a warning from his boss, who had said that Han-gil was as strong as the Hae-gwang leader and advised him to avoid Han-gil at all costs. His boss had even emphasized leaving Han-gil alone if he got in their way. Ignoring this advice, Ki-woong had messed with Han-gil and now had to face the consequences. When Ki-woong attacks, Han-gil dodges effortlessly, continuing to defeat everyone else. Han-gil informs Ki-woong that he's no match for him and quickly knocks him down with a few punches. Unfinished, Han-gil demands Ki-woong get back up. Ki-woong attempts a surprise attack but ends up with a broken arm. Han-gil accuses Ki-woong of orchestrating the gas incident and what happened to Dae-yob, asserting that eliminating him would be best for everyone. Ki-woong threatens to inform the big boss about Han-gil, but Han-gil is undeterred, moving closer to the fire pit. Ki-woong remembers why his boss feared Han-gil. He never ended things easily after defeating someone. Proving his boss right, Han-gil shoves Ki-woong's head into the fire pit. Ki-woong screams and begs Han-gil to stop, but Han-gil reminds him that he started this conflict and must face the consequences. Han-gil tells Ki-woong that his friends would have died in the gas incident if Dojin hadn't woken up at the right moment. He chastises Ki-woong for messing with them if this is all he is capable of. After giving Ki-woong a second-degree burn on his face, Han-gil releases him. Ki-woong screams in agony, but Han-gil silences him by shoving a foot in his mouth. Dojin watches in shock, witnessing Han-gil's terrifying ruthlessness for the first time. Han-gil then goes to Dae-yob and gently taps his cheeks to wake him up. But Dae-yob is completely knocked out, so Han-gil carries him on his back. He then looks over at Dojin with a big smile and tells him they can go home now. Thanks to Han-gil's efforts, the runaway family survives their fight against Hae-gwang and comes out victorious. However, things are about to take a bad turn for Han-gil's crew as their conflict with Hae-gwang intensifies. Dae-yob, Dojin, Taek, Gaeong, and Song-bin are admitted to a hospital. Financial difficulties arise as none of them can go to their jobs. The pizza place's owner, in gratitude, steps in to pay their hospital bills. Meanwhile, Hae-gwang keeps a low profile, and rumors spread that Han-gil had taken down Ki-woong. Dojin believes everything is going to be resolved, but Han-gil corrects him, warning that Hae-gwang will be back soon. He tells them that more people in Hae-gwang are even stronger than Ki-woong. Han-gil believes that another member of Hae-gwang will come to their neighborhood to take over Ki-woong's role and seek revenge. Han-gil gives them two choices: leave the neighborhood quietly to avoid further trouble or stay and brace themselves for what's coming. Dayob points out that Hangil was the one who brought them to this neighborhood and wants him to choose the best option, reminding him that they have nowhere else to go. Hangil goes to the roof to clear his thoughts, and Dojin follows him. Dojin asks if there's a way to get stronger faster, but Hangil thinks he is learning quickly enough. Dojin explains that he has changed but still feels like a liability. He wants to be as strong as Hangil or the others to face Haiguang when they come. Hangil, seeing his determination, considers a tougher but faster training method for him. Meanwhile, the pizza place enjoys temporary peace, free from the threat of Haiguang. The owner hopes this calm will last longer. Dojin returns to work and sees Nian coming back from school. Although terrified about something, she smoothly asks Dojin out on a date. Dojin agrees without realizing it's a date. They plan to meet in front of the pizza place, but Nian doesn't show up. So, Dojin goes to her school, dressed up as a bad boy under Dayob's influence, and waits for her. Standing near the school makes him feel strange, reminding him of his own time as a student. He feels like he is in a completely different world from them, but then he notices Nian on the school grounds. 3 guys have surrounded her, and the most handsome one among them proposes to her. The handsome guy gives her a teddy bear, but she knows there is a hidden camera inside, so she throws it away. The handsome guy then reveals his actual sick character and starts getting his way with her. However, Dojin arrives to teach him a lesson. The handsome yet despicable guy named Danga mocks Dojin for uttering some cliched words. Danga pushes Dojin away and grabs Nian to take her with him. Dojin punches Danga, making him bleed from his nose. Enraged, Danga smacks down Dojin, demonstrating his dominance as a bully. Despite this, Dojin gets up and begins to provoke Danga. Realizing they are attracting unnecessary attention on the school grounds, Danga decides to end the fight. Before leaving, he tells Dojin that he will remember his face and that they will meet again soon. Dojin and Nian try to forget about the encounter and enter a coffee shop to continue their date. Dojin asks Nian if the guy harasses her all the time. He senses that it is difficult for her to talk about such things, so he shares his own story of being bullied at school. He explains how he thought that he would cause trouble for others if he told them about it. In hindsight, he realizes that it would have been much better if he had confided in someone. He tells her that holding it in won't solve anything and that she will eventually explode if she keeps it to herself. Dojin promises to help her so that she doesn't end up in a miserable state like he once did. Seeing how supportive Dojin is, Nian bursts into tears and shares her story of being harassed. She tells him that she and Danga were in the same class at the start of the school year and had become friends, thinking he was a nice, charming kid. One day, he began behaving strangely and touched her buttocks. He immediately apologized, claiming it was an accident. However, he started pushing boundaries more frequently and in more cunning ways. By the time Nian realized something was wrong, it was too late. She was already labeled as his toy by the entire school. Danga instigated his classmates to harass Nian, but none of them admitted to being influenced by him. She considered seeking help, but her father was already struggling because of Haiguang, so she couldn't confide in him about her ordeal at school. When Dojin heard her story, he couldn't believe she had been silently suffering while putting on a cheerful facade. He thanked Nian for sharing and promised to teach Danga a lesson. Meanwhile, Danga was at a karaoke center, trying to harass another classmate. Her boyfriend tried to intervene but was no match for the seasoned bully and endured repeated beatings. Desperate, the girl begged Danga to stop, and he relented only if she sang a song. Trembling in fear, she began to sing, which Danga found amusing, though he found Nian far more intriguing. Danga revealed he had dug up Dojin's entire life history and pondered how Naeon ended up with someone like him. Wanting Nian to suffer as well, he schemed to use her distressed boyfriend to exploit her vulnerability, similar to his tactics with the other girl earlier. Danga had already dispatched one of his cronies to tail Dojin, intending to use him as bait. However, Dojin had already tracked down Danga without any need for such tricks. He swiftly incapacitated one lackey with a fire extinguisher and threatened to do the same to Danga. With resolve, Dojin informed Danga that Hangil had witnessed the lackey tailing him earlier and subsequently directed him to Danga's whereabouts. Danga was caught off guard as Dojin sprayed the fire extinguisher in his eyes, preparing to strike him in retribution for what he did to Nian.